Good afternoon, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest. It is a little chilly, though. Today, we're going to be talking about Eileen and Ziza, what they're kind of bringing to the table with their EX forms, whether it's going to be significant enough to invest and level in them, and what some of the advantages and disadvantages are of their new abilities. I think probably the first thing to point out with both of these units is that they are both units that are not going to help you in PvP at all. Right now, Yuna is so dominant. Halloween Leela is still out there. These units are both going to get shredded by those. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're just not going to be taking these units into any form of PvP, into arena. It's just not going to happen. So why would you want to invest in these units? Well, it would probably be for the PvE applications of them. Eileen, again, is going to be a tough sell, but Ziza does have some qualities that really, for a lot of players, they utilize Ziza a lot. So let's talk about Eileen first. One of the big notes about Eileen on Eileen's board stats is that Eileen is going to get Agility 6. Eileen, one of the slower UR units, so it is nice to see that Eileen is getting her agility buffed. In terms of skill improvements, so we are going to see her primary attack Stack Shadow is going to get a 25% chance to inflict Immobilize for 3 turns. It's going to get basically a range improvement. So previously it was just 3 hits in front of her. Now it's going to be a 2x3, so it's going to be like a 6 square attack. I think this is pretty cool. I'm not sure this is going to get used. I think it could. In order to use this, Eileen's going to have to get close to the opponent. And this is assuming Eileen's going to get close to the opponent. I think right now, with the way the game currently is, never going to happen. I even think in PvE, you would probably have better attacks to use than this attack right here. Coming to our next attack, we have Earth Sanction, 175% or 170% modifier attack. It is improved by 30%, so moderate improvement. We also see that it's basically the same space, and it is a 36 cost AP ability. Now, these types of abilities where the unit basically becomes a dangerous, like the area around the unit becomes dangerous, we don't see utilized very often. And what we usually see used much more is like the job level 25 ability that Eileen gets at the end of her kit. And that ability is less AP than this ability. So while this is a nice improvement, I don't think anyone is really ever going to use this. I think they're probably going to be using her new ability called Impulse Thrust. Now, Impulse Thrust, couple important notes here. It is a 200% modifier attack. It's only 34 AP, and it has the piercing element with it, right? So whenever you have an ability with piercing, that basically means that if there are like multiple units in the line of the attack, that does mean that all of the units are going to get hit, not just one, right? So it does have range height 1, and what's special about this, and what I think is really cool, is that it's a 5 range height 1, 34 AP attack, and this really reminds me of Nighthawk, right? Nighthawk down here is a range 4, range height 1, as you can see down below. So this is like just a straight up buffed up version of Nighthawk. And Nighthawk is an ability that if you are in PvP or you are trying to do maybe more difficult content, does see play. So Impulse Threat is going to be pretty powerful. It's a pretty nice buff. Maybe in a future where we aren't dominated by little Leelas and we're not dominated by sort of these one-shot magic powerful creatures, which is most likely going to be a while, right? Because Black Rose Helena is going to be coming out in the near future. It's going to be interesting, but Impulse Thrust is pretty good. I would say overall right now, Eileen's going to be a skip. Just knowing that there are other regular EX UR units coming out and MR UR units coming out that are going to be kind of just as powerful or more relevant for all players, right? So this would be like Christmas Victoria coming out here in the near future. This would be like Ayaka with her Kurage granting AP. This would be any sort of UR unit that is released, like Warrior of Light again, any Final Fantasy X unit, right? Rainbow Broadstones are that wall for most players. So if you're asking yourself if you're investing a Rainbow Broadstone into Eileen, I wouldn't do it. Now, of course, you are going to have some fan favorites, right? We do know that the Church of Eileen, Oron J, is a huge fan of Eileen. We do know that Keito out there in the community is a huge fan of Eileen. But just know that there's a difference between using your unit because it's your favorite and using a unit because it is applicable and worth a limited amount of resources that you might have, right? So Eileen, in my book, is a skip. I think for the majority of the player base, they are better investing their materials in other units for right now. Let's talk about Ziza, though. Ziza does not get any agility from her EX form. She gets some additional attack, critical hit rate, some luck. So overall, pretty good. The thing that's interesting about Ziza is that almost everybody has Ziza leveled. So Ziza is one of those units where you could just be like, yeah, I could see myself throwing something in here. The other thing about Ziza is that Ziza sees a lot of play in dark compositions, particularly for steal time, particularly for, being able to both utilize slash as well as steal time. So you can throw out like a snipe dagger in here to chain with dark slash compositions. So Ziza is that 120 kind of steal time dark unit for the majority of the PvE experience that you're running dark slash in. Important note here, though, is that Ziza does not get an increased agility, right? So we didn't see any increased agility. So her effectiveness as a steal timer is not going to change. What will change is her ability to survive in the match, right? So when you're thinking about her 120 form, what you're basically getting is more survivability and potentially more damage. You can see here that her basic ability here, or her strike attack ability, does get upgraded with defense penetration 40. Again, you might not be running that. You might be running that. You're definitely going to be running Thief's Knowledge for that move 1 agility 12%. You might be running acquired AP up instead. It's hard to say. I think you could probably run this, though. And that defense penetration 40 is, of course, going to apply to dark slash attacks in terms of PvE content. So I do think that is really relevant. Now, some other things that get buffed here. Pummel is going to get buffed. You can see here it's called Continuous Fist, but Pummel is going to get Light Killer 25x. Again, really powerful, really relevant in a light element raid, especially if you're in a dark slash composition or a dark, any composition. This is good. This is powerful. This could be, for example, like if the monster's taking another turn, you could pop this and chain the dark, maybe not the slash. But overall, it's not like crazy. And it's just like a passive buff to Ziza. Now, one of the other abilities Ziza is going to be getting is her level 25 ability, or her job level 25 ability, which is called Raksha Boxing. It's going to decrease attack resistance 30 for 3 turns to the target, and it's going to do a 200% modifier attack. This is pretty relevant, I would say, because we don't get a lot of units that can decrease attack resistance on the opponent. When we do get units that can decrease attack resistance, we do find it in a situation where, if you're running in raids, if you're running in Trials of Reckoning, it can be very powerful and very effective. I'll give you a great example. In the last raid that we ran, I was running the Black Rose Helena card. Now, granted, this is a ability that is attached to that card that lowers area attack resistance, right? So it's not the same as decreasing attack resistance, but being able to use an ability to lower the area attack resistance, in addition to some of the other debuffs that I did, enabled me to reliably clear that raid. So whenever you have a unit that's getting a unique debuff associated with them that you can utilize in potentially a lot of PvE content, right? I could imagine running forward and popping this and, you know, then doing steal time for the rest of the fight, giving you a 30% damage boost basically to the rest of your units. Granted, this would of course have to be single attacks, but still very powerful. This could be very relevant if you are running, say, a situation with a lot of fist units where you want to run a hand-to-hand clear composition. So there's just so many different variables and utilities with this that I do think this is really powerful. And I think this, combined with the fact that Ziza is utilized as a steal time unit quite a bit, does kind of make me feel like Ziza is worth the EX. Now, in terms of priority, is Ziza worth it before Stern? Is Ziza worth it before Yuna? Probably not. But I would say, you know, next to Stern, next to King Rob for the next coming week, I think Ziza should probably be your priority UR unit to EX, outside of the fact of any Final Fantasy X or special time units. Other than that, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. We'll definitely be reviewing a lot of other UR units here in the future when their EXs come out. And of course, priorities are going to change depending on if the global meta changes. And of course, things happen. So, as always, everybody, thank you so much for your support. You can support me at dig.gs/coins, or you can go to dig.gs/offer as well. And have a great rest of your day.